Welcome back, everyone. I want to welcome you to Is. He will talk about public speaking, how to handle it, how to pick topics for conferences, and also how to handle speaker dinners, how to handle your nerves, unlike me. And he will go through some basic tips and tricks of public speaking. So I hope you enjoy it, learn something.
Thank you. First of all, quick question. Who here did conference speaking before? Oh, actually quite a few. What are you doing here? Well, first of all, I'm really happy that you're here because this is a small room, which means you chose to be here. Which means that everybody who didn't do conference speaking yet, you at least have a bit of a passion of knowledge sharing. And I really enjoy that because that's a big passion of mine. So, who am I? My name is Cies van der Ven. As you can tell, I have a horrible cold and I didn't sleep last night, so we just have to endure that. I have a developer background for about 15 years, but these days I don't really write software anymore. I look at other people's software as a software quality expert, so I look at other people's code, try to find certain patterns, and I just try to help them improve the quality, security of the code, and basically everything software related. Basically a lot of knowledge sharing. Aside from that, this is right now my 54th talk at a conference or meetup. I also do a lot of volunteer mentoring and coaching. I'm in the JVOL committee, which is the biggest Java conference in the Netherlands. And I also volunteer at the Arnhem Java User Group, where we try to get a knowledge session about every month. So I do a lot of knowledge sharing, and that's why I thought it was fun to have a talk about knowledge sharing. Thank you so much. Which I realize is a very meta talk. Basically, I'm talking about what I'm doing right now. And today I want to take away, hopefully, a bit of the fears that people might have when they go into conference speaking. So first, why would you go conference speaking? Because there are advantages as well. First of all, it's a lot of fun. Especially once you're finished, that dopamine hit that you get, oh, that's really nice. But also, you get to meet a lot of nice people. You get to meet other speakers, organizers, volunteers, even attendees. Also, quick thing, speakers actually really like it if you come talk to them. Because international speakers don't know anyone in the country they're in. So that's why you see speakers talk to other speakers a lot, because those are the only people you tend to know from other conferences. So if you ever see a speaker, especially a foreign one, please go talk to that person. They really enjoy that. So given this, it's very good for networking. You meet a lot of people who are very passionate about their subjects. It's also great for acquiring knowledge. If you have to prepare a talk in order to convey information to others, you always learn things about that yourself. Every talk I've ever given, at least learned a few things about the subject that I didn't know yet, even though I knew that topic quite well. It has also been great for social skills. I naturally am not very good at social skills, but I learned a lot from conference speaking. Because it turns out, if you're talking to one person one-on-one, you're also presenting yourself to that one person. So these skills are translatable. So because of doing public speaking, my one-on-one social skills also improved. It also made me a lot more confident. Now I'm better at speaking with confidence, which is great for my job. Talking about jobs, conference speaking is actually quite good for your career because it's a bit of a rare skill. Most people don't do public speaking, which means you have something that sets you apart from the rest. But the most important thing I really enjoy about conference speaking is that knowledge is the only thing that increases as you give it away. It's one of those things where I'm trying to help you, and by helping you, things are good for me. So it's a pure win-win. Everybody gets better if you share your knowledge. And that's basically one of my ways to make the world just a slightly better place by helping others. And through that, basically my whole career has been built upon that. So why don't people do conference speaking? First of all, it's scary. And yeah, it can be scary, especially in the beginning. I can promise you it does get better. But even I still have nerves when I'm sitting there in the previous talk because I have to come up right now. And this is not weird, because this is quite outside your comfort zone. If you never did this before, it's way outside, and it's called comfort zone for a reason. Everything inside, it feels nice and comfortable. Everything outside, yeah, that's scary. But the nice thing is, the longer you spend at a certain point outside of your comfort zone, the more comfortable it starts to get. Think of it as like driving a car. If you just learned got driver's lessons and it's your first time alone in a car, you're really scared about all the traffic around you. You probably make a lot of mistakes, and you're really happy that all the other drivers are correcting for those mistakes. Now you blink with your eyes and you're like 5 years forward. Now you're the one who's sitting comfortable in your car, and you're looking at other newbie drivers who are making very weird mistakes, and you're probably cursing at them. But that's because this is now in your comfort zone. It's slowly slipped to the point where driving for you now is normal. And what might not still be for others. And for me, it was very far out of my comfort zone as well. If I think back at the very first presentation I ever had to give, I was 10 years old, like very small teeth, and I was absolutely mortified. Because, like I said, I don't have natural social skills. I was incredibly shy, and I had to stand in front of my class. And they made me go first out of the whole group. So at least I picked a topic I thought was a bit comfortable with. Well, back then I was still already a nerd, so I picked space. It went okay-ish until someone asked the question, how do they poop in the International Space Station? And I didn't know how to answer that. The teacher had to help me. And when it was done, I was, never gonna do this again. Well, I wasn't crying, but I was very, very close to that. It was even that bad that it turns out, years later, I found out that there was a reason I was going first. Because the teachers actually went to my parents to discuss, because they knew how scared I would be for giving that presentation, that they basically decided it would be best if I would start to rip off the Band-Aid. Otherwise, I would, like, every time I would see someone else present, I would be like, oh shit, I have to go after this. So they just rip off the Band-Aid, and that's basically where I come from. Luckily, of course, as you can tell, the promise I never do this again, I didn't stick to that promise since I'm talking here. But a lot of things happened over the years that made me go public speaking. One, I can try and say this is an engineering problem, and now I can do this. And that's how I ended up learning magic. And it turns out public speaking is exactly that. It's a fully learnable skill. Even if you're absolutely terrible at it now, if you put in the time and effort, and basically you can approach it as an engineering problem, since conference speaking also has a lot of tricks. There are just a lot of tricks and things you can do to make your talk better. So if you're very bad at it, you probably won't become the next Steve Jobs. You do need some natural skill for that. But every single one of you, since you're all engineers, have the capability of being at least an above average speaker. You can get above average purely by putting in the work. The nice thing about that is you don't have to do that alone. You can ask some friends, other people to help you. Normally, I have some old Dutch colleagues coming to me with me at the conference, and they would sit in front, and they would just nod at everything I say to give me the confidence boost. Because if I ever need a bit of confidence, I just look at them, and they will nod all the way. So can you two do that for me? See, this is how easy it is to ask for help. So I won't test you on that. So just keep nodding, and we'll be okay. Another thing that I try to do is I try to hack myself. Again, I'm an engineer. So when I'm sitting there, when I'm really nervous, I don't know if you have the same, but at my stomach, you can feel that in your stomach, right? Those nerves. Turns out, if you're very happy about something, you can also feel that in your stomach. So I just try to envision myself, no, I'm not nervous, I don't remember what to say anymore, just drink some water. You have about 3 to 4 seconds to basically drink and fully reset. And most of the time, that's enough. So just having, and just the thought that you have some water in case of blackouts tend to help a lot. But what really helped me so much in my life to do conference speaking is because, like I said, I'm not a natural confident person. I have a lot of self-doubt, and if I want to say, oh, I'm going to do conference speaking and I can do this, that's not going to work. Because I know, like, no, you can't do that. I'm not able to convince myself I can do something. But the one thing that I noticed that helped me over the years, basically to really get out of my comfort zone, to go to bars, to learn how to be social, to go on a solo trip to Australia, to learn how to go on vacation on my own, to do conference speaking. At the end was something very simple. Just say, fuck it. Because there's a very big difference between fuck it and I can do this. Because with I can do this, I'm trying to convince myself I have the skills and everything to do this. And that's hard for me. But if I say fuck it, the moment I get on stage, I've won. I've embraced the failure. So with fuck it, the fact that I just started my presentation here means, okay, I've won. Anything that happens after this is either accepted, or if it goes well, it's a bonus. So for me, this is the major thing that helped me do conference speaking. Are there any questions so far? Because that's another fear a lot of people have. What if they ask questions? First of all, you have two kinds of questions. You have open and closed questions. As you just see, with open questions are a bit difficult because there are basically 4 responses. Either nobody says anything, or best case scenario, someone asks an amazing question that helps the rest of the audience. More likely, someone asks a question that's very specific for that one person, and now the whole room is waiting for that conversation to be finished. An absolute worst case scenario, someone is taking over your presentation. So I tend to not like open questions. As you can see, most people don't want to answer. Like, who would never answer an open question? No, everybody would answer an open question. Who would raise their hands if I would ask a closed question? Normally, people raise their hands now. I have one person. Closed questions are way better if you want to do audience interaction. But what's important, you don't actually have to do questions. Like in the end, there's usually like a 5-minute questions or something. You don't actually have to do that. You can just say, if you have any questions, come to me after my talk, or I'll be around here all day. And now you don't have to publicly answer questions, which is actually sometimes better, because if you have a really good talk, and then there's a questionnaire, and someone asks you a really specific question for that one person, the whole room is waiting for 5 minutes until that's done. Everybody wants to leave. So actually ending with, if you have any questions, come to me afterwards, is actually a very good way to end a presentation. But the most important is, if you don't know the answer to a question, don't bullshit. If you don't know something, that's perfectly fine. Nobody knows everything. You can easily just say, oh, don't know that, never looked into that bit, or great question, let me get back to you, add me on LinkedIn and I'll tell it to you. But the moment you start making stuff up on the point, if you start bullshitting, the moment someone notices that, you lose all credibility. So whatever you do, everything is fine. Not knowing something is perfectly fine. As long as you don't bullshit, you'll be fine. What if you're not good at presenting? Well, like I said, it's a fully learnable skill. The fact that you're not good at it now doesn't mean you're not good at it in 1 year from now. There are tons of things you can do. Like you can get courses for this. Like I said, you can ask friends. But how I got in public speaking was, in a way, it was sort of forced upon me. Like I was a consultant at some point in time, and at my very first consultant job, I had about 5 years of experience back then. So that means, like as a consultant, I was now good paid external, so I had to perform. So I had like huge imposter syndrome, and my manager would come to me very angrily. And luckily, he wasn't angry at me. It turned out there was another team at the organization, and they said, oh, we can write software. And by writing software, they meant we wrote an Android app once. But they never heard about version control, CI/CD, or basically most software engineering things. And it was my manager's job to teach them that stuff. But he was like, oh, I really don't feel like doing it. Ties, you go teach them. So now, with my 5 years of experience, I went to the team, quite scared as well. Basically, asked, do you have any questions? And they would ask things like, so what are getters and setters? So on one hand, I was quite angry with how can a company get a team do a project that doesn't know what getters and setters are, but on the other hand, I could answer that question. But I did realize, again with the whole comfort zone thing, like 5 or 6 years before that, I didn't know the answer to that either. But it slowly taught me that in those 5 years, I learned way more than I thought I did. So, and another thing happened where when I noticed basically the spark in their eyes when I taught them something, like really helped them grow, I really enjoyed that. So every job from that point on, I just looked for juniors to help coach them, mentor them. And unconsciously, that made me work a lot on my presenter skills. Like most of my talks are normally about explaining complex topics in a very easy to understand way. And that's not because I've been accidentally training myself for 10 years to do that by teaching things to juniors. So by just, again, teaching things to others, try to explain things to others, you automatically learn a few social skills that are needed to get into public speaking. And again, it's a pure win. Worst case scenarios, your juniors are very happy with you. So that's, for me, this really worked into developing some skills to get into public speaking. What if I made a fool out of myself? For example, you could have a very bad throat. Well, things can happen. Sometimes you can make a fool out of yourself. But there are some things that we can do to prevent that. First of all, preparation. Spend the time to make a talk. And this is way more time than you may think. My rule of thumb generally is for every minute you have to speak, you have about 1 hour of preparation time needed. So if you have a 45-minute talk, prepare to spend about 40 hours preparing that. Because you will go for multiple scenarios in your mind, you make a version 1, you throw that away, you make a version 2, you throw that away, make a version 3. You have to play around with it, then you have to practice your talk, and if you have a 45-minute talk, practicing it even once already costs you almost an hour. So don't underestimate this. Don't say, oh, I have a conference in 2 days, I'll start making my talk now. Don't do that. Take the time to actually prepare your talk. Also prepare for technical failures. Because these are things you can't be in control of your laptop crashing, or if I spill my water on it or something. Technical failures can happen. But for example, on my website, I have a link to this presentation. So if anything would happen to my laptop right now, I could take any laptop from anyone with an internet connection, go to my website, click on the link and continue my talk. And that way, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm prepared for failure. Same if you do a demo, that can be quite risky. A lot of things can go wrong with demo effect and such. Just make sure you have things like slides prepared in advance. Just in case your demo fails, oh, now you have slides, and now it's not so bad. So try to think about all the things that could go wrong, most things, and try just make sure that you are prepared for that. And then things will be fine. Like I said, practice, practice a lot. If you practice, I notice it's way better if you speak out loud. If you do your inside voice, things will sound very different, so always practice aloud. And again, find people to help. People would love to help you. And if you talk to people, again, that's a very different experience. And you're also getting experience in talking for a crowd already, and they can give you some very good feedback. Another trick I use, most of the time, basically all the time, I improvise everything I say. Right now, I'm improvising every line I said for the entire talk so far. That works for me, because I used to just try to remember all the lines from my heart. But if I would forget something, I would get a total blackout. So I just decided to skip that, practice a lot, and make sure that I really know what are the talking points on every slide. And the exact text will be different every time. But it also means like, I can't say anything wrong, and if I forget something, you don't know what I was going to say anyway. I might have forgotten a lot of lines by now, and you would have no clue. So, but one thing I do is memorize introduction. Because if you get here on stage, you do still have all those nerves. And that's the point where you can get a blackout. But usually after maybe like a minute or so, after the first few slides, then your preparation kicks in. You've done it a lot of times, and you basically go on autopilot. And I remember the very first time I did it, once I got through the first minute, I basically blinked and I managed to say, and that was it. I can't remember what I just said. I just knew things went okay enough for people to clap. But that's just going full autopilot. So if you prepare enough, if you get through the first few minutes, you'll probably be fine. Another easy thing to make yourself look a bit better on stage for presence is think about how you hold your arms. Because I've seen people that present like that. That's a bit nonchalant. Even worse if you present like this. Now you're putting a barrier in between you and yourself and others. And the easy way to fix it is just keep your arms in this area. Because the nice thing is, if you just keep your arms like this, your body will automatically start moving them. I'm not consciously thinking about this just starts to happen. So the only conscious thing you have to do is keep your arms around here, and it's already way better. If you want to level up, if that's going quite decently, you can try to dramatize a bit, and basically if you do a movement, do the same thing, just bigger. And you can do a lot before it starts getting crazy. To give an example, this is the big difference between saying, oh, I'm really passionate about software engineering, and I'm really passionate about software engineering, and I'm really passionate about software engineering. And you can tell the difference. And the only thing I do with the second one is just stand like this, and with the third one is just do the same thing, but just slightly more. And if you go do like, I'm really passionate about software, yeah, now it's weird. So you don't have to go that far, but usually if you think, oh, this is way too far, that's generally still acceptable. You have to get really crazy before it starts looking weird. Also intonation, because if you speak in a very monotonous voice, it doesn't really matter how interesting my story is, because you already forgot the first line of my sentence anyway. If you speak a bit with intonation, your story will be way more, it will be way less boring, people will be way better to spend attention to. And again, you can ask friends to help you with that. Another common thing is, what should you talk about? Well, if it's your very first talk, just talk about something you like. Like if you ever did a passion project, or there's a library you really liked. My first talk was about Arrow, functional programming library from Kotlin. I just really enjoyed that library, so I thought, okay, that's my topic for my first talk. Just anything that you like. And then you're already passionate about it, you already have that energy, so you'll probably be fine. Otherwise, it can be something that you used a lot. If you use Spring for 5 years, you probably know more about it now than when you just started. And it can still be interesting, because there are always juniors. There are always people just beginning with software engineering. So there's always room for junior talks. You can also try to talk about the new big thing. Like these days, it will be like AI, MCP servers and such. For a talk within the company, that works really well. For conferences, you now have a competition with what all the other major speakers are doing. So all the big speakers will be talking about that stuff, so you have a lot of competition. So for your first talk, I would say, talk about something you like. Also remember, you don't have to be an authority on something. If you would have to be the authority on a subject, only a few people in the world could do public speaking. And just because you're not an authority doesn't mean you can't explain it in a way that might work for at least a certain amount of people. Like you might explain things in a different way, and that might be just the talk of someone needed. Again, and also, presenting is an opportunity to learn. If you're not an authority, if you're forced to convey this information to someone else, you're forced to structure it in a certain way, and that you will slowly become an authority. Also, if you think about the whole career thing, if you give a talk at an internal knowledge sharing session at your company, you are now considered the authority on that topic by that company. Like if you give a talk about AI and are the first person to give a talk about AI to a company, and the company wants to start an AI project, who will they think about of asking to join that project? They've seen you on stage talking about that stuff, so you'll be the first name they will remember. So that can have a lot of good career opportunities. And what's also very important, because I also hear a lot of people, yeah, but that's not interesting to talk about. Well, that's not up to you to decide. You just submit a talk to a conference and they will decide if it's interesting for that conference or not. That's not up to you, it's up to other people to decide if it's interesting or not. Like, they allowed a very meta talk about conference speaking at this conference because the conference thought it might be interesting. So it's not up to you to decide about what's interesting, just talk about something that you enjoy and let them work out if they want it or not. So talking about conference speaking, so how can you actually get on stage? Well, if you're just beginning, it's just good to start small. Just present for your team at your, at your company, do an internal knowledge session at the company. They're usually like Java user groups or heap space and such. It's relatively easy to get in there because if you go into a full-on conference, they will have to vote in hundreds of talks. If you go to a Java user group and say, hey, I want to give a talk, they can probably say, oh, can you do it in 2 months? So if you want to start up, get the experience, go to the Java user groups, go to Heathspace, do those kind of things first. They can really help you get that experience. And if you want to do conference speaking, now you have to go for the call for papers. And the call for papers is basically a company wants to have talks, they open a call for papers, and you can send a title and an abstract to that conference. And they will look, they have a commission, they will look for all those titles and abstracts and decide which talks they want for your for that conference. Be sure that, oh, this also means that these have to be good. Because they have, these commission can go through hundreds of these. So yours has to stand out. So for your abstract, for example, don't submit a one-line abstract. Because if I look at a talk that has a one-line abstract, I'm like, you didn't put effort into making an abstract, why would you put effort in making a talk? I've also seen the other way, where someone put like 2 pages worth of abstract in it. I have to go for 450 of these things. I'm not gonna read 2 pages for your one abstract. So generally about 7 lines or something, that's the sweet spot where it's long enough to be interesting and short enough that people will actually read it. Also make sure you submit it to the right track, which can be things like core Java, AI, front-end, those kind of things. Because especially the bigger conferences, they have a commission per track. So if you submit to the wrong track, then the commission will be like, yeah, this is not for us, and your talk gets ignored. Also think about the talk type that you want to do. Most conferences have things like lightning talks, which are like 5 to 15-minute talks. This is very good to start with. Also for your chance of getting in. Because if I look at JFall, we had 6 slots for lightning talks, and we had about 10 submissions to those. Which means the odds of getting a slot are about 60%, purely number-wise. The other way around is, we had 450 other talks, and we had 30 slots. So that shows the difference between how much chance you have to get accepted. So the lightning talk's also great to get started because it's only 5 minutes. Even if things go really bad, it's over in 5 minutes. You'll be okay. And most of these tend to be humorous as well. So if the audience laughs, then you succeeded. Then there are the technical sessions. It's what we mostly do here at HeapCon. Those are like the knowledge session. These are the most popular talks. Like I said, also harder to get into. And then there's the keynotes. That's the you talk for the entire audience. Don't do that as a first-time speaker. Also, if it's a good conference, they won't accept it if you do that as a first-time speaker, because the whole audience is going to see that. You're not going to put someone's first time in there. Also, if you have any speaking credentials, include those. If you never did conference speaking before, it really helps if you include a video. Because then just present your abstract. Your title and abstract, that's it. This basically means that if the conference has to choose between 2 talks that are relatively equal, if one of them has a video where they can tell, oh, this person has some presenting skills, we can trust this person to be able to get on stage, you will win over the one without a video, where it's a pure chance. So just include a video, even a few minutes. At JFall, we once had a guy who just had a whole bunch of papers and would just make a manual slideshow telling about his abstract. It was absolutely amazing, and we instantly got him for the conference. So if you manage to make it funny, oh, then that really helps. If you want to where can you find these cover papers? For Java conferences at least, there's this nice website, javaconferences.org, and you can see all the CFPs that are still open. I will show the link at the end as well. So if you get accepted for our conference, really awesome. Just make sure that you block your agenda and arrange things like visa and flights early, because there have been cases where people were way too late with that, and now the conference has to deal with the fact that you're not showing up sometimes hours before you have to get on stage, and they're not going to be happy with that. So the sooner you do those things, if something doesn't work out, you can just tell the conference in advance, and they don't mind that. But if you cancel in the last minute, you're not going to get invited to that conference again. And if you don't get accepted, yeah, it happens. I get refused most of the time. So I had people coming to me saying, oh, you get accepted everywhere, because if I speak somewhere, I post it on my LinkedIn. But so they only see my successes. They don't see the tens, the dozens of emails I get with your session has been refused. It's a numbers game. Like I said, JFOL had 450 submissions and 30 spots. There were amazing speakers that were not able to speak at JFOL. So just submit to a lot of conferences, and if all of them refuse you, just ask them for feedback. How can you improve the title and abstract? And most of them will be happy to help you. And that basically, we're already out of time, brings me to the conclusion. There are only two things that I really want you to remember. First of all, it's a learnable skill. You're all engineers. This is an engineering problem. Every single one of you has the potential to be an above-average speaker if you put in the effort. And secondly, if you need that last bit of encouragement to get on the stage, just say fuck it. Submit to HeapCon next year and see what happens. The moment you stand here on stage, then you succeeded. Everything else is a bonus. And if you need any help with that, like need your abstract to be reviewed or anything with your talk, just add me on LinkedIn. I would love to help you with that. You can also help me by just giving feedback and honest feedback on this talk. This is the first time I gave this kind of talk. So I'm asking you to get out of your comfort zone. So I thought it would only be fair if I would also get out of my comfort zone myself. So any feedback would be really appreciated on how to do this. If you want to look at my slides or previous presentations, you can find this on my website. And you can find any open CFPs on the Java Conference website. And with that, first of all, I would like to thank you for nodding during the talk. You're awesome. And thank you everyone for attending. And I really hope to see you on stage next year at HeapCon. Oh, and if you have any questions, please come to me after the talk.